So there's a lot of misconceptions when it comes to welding, and I thought we would ask the professor a question about a few of the different ones we found out there. First one that I found was, welders don't need a lot of education.
I completely disagree.
Yeah.
Of course, let's say looking at hobby welders, put something together for their private use. They may try around, there's no liability, only for themselves and maybe for their family.
Yeah.
Okay, so they can take that risk. Whenever you, let's say, are in a professional area, I think you really need education. It's a process where you apply a lot of energy, a lot of heat. So education about safety for yourself and maybe for people who stand around. That's the first point. Safety first, always.
Yeah.
And then, of course, what do you do with welding? You produce something that should have a certain function.
Yeah.
And maybe other people will pay for it. Yeah. And they want to have what they bought. So
they want what they signed up for.
Yeah, and that means the quality of the produced product should also fulfill that expectation. And let's say if the welder doesn't even know what are the influences on the quality of that welded part, that's a very high risk. And really, there are so many dependencies. Which type of material do I have? Which thickness? Do I use the right process? Do I use the right filler metal? Is the base metal weldable at all? All these questions. And that means, yes, he should have a decent qualification and education. I think when it comes to really high-end components or products, it's even more important. But I think then the employers will take care and have a look that, of course, their welders have these qualifications, because finally, the company that fabricates and sells the product has a liability.
Yeah, and you don't want to be on the line for a mistake that causes someone to get hurt, because gets pricey.
Absolutely. And especially when you have components that theoretically also could have a danger for their users if they are not made correctly, like pressure vessels. Mm-hmm. You want to have a good weld on a pressure vessel.
Yeah.
You want to have a good weld at a car body when you have an accident. Yeah. You want to have a really tight battery box when you drive an electric car and have an accident.
Yes.
So I think only these examples show if you don't have a well-educated, well-qualified welder, you may get problems.
So this is another question that comes up all the time. Does milk help you fight metal fever?
Absolutely bullshit. Sorry for the wording. What I wonder is how long this is around. Yeah, we hear it also in Europe. We hear it here in the States. I couldn't even find out where it comes from. I think it was from the, let's say, like the 50s and 60s, when people promoted drinking milk, but for the general health of the population. Mm. And then I think they just overdid it and said, okay, may also help, for some, let's say, what's called like welders diseases. No, unfortunately not. What helps here is avoid breathing in welding fumes. That means use proper PPE, use fume extraction. That helps.
Yeah.
Milk drinking may help to strengthen your bones, but doesn't help for these welders diseases.
Wow. Now we know. Okay, here's another misconception about welding. Welding is a dirty job. Is that true?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I think it's in the, I would say, responsibility of both the welder and the employer. Yeah. Of course, you can go to some workshops. You go in and you see it's a dirty place. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, there is no ventilation. There is no fume extraction. Nothing is cleaned up. Everything is unorganized. Then, of course, it's a dirty job.
Yeah.
But using state-of-the-art equipment, using PPE, using everything that's there, that's available, that's affordable, and it's not a dirty job. And then it's even a safe job and also a more healthier job. And if especially employers think about, what do I invest on one side in state-of-the-art welding equipment to also, say, make my welder's job easier, comparing this to the costs for sick leave.
Yeah, it's a big difference.
It's a big difference, and then I think they would not hesitate to do that.
So no, not always. Will using the wrong polarity destroy my equipment? That's something that I've been told in the past, that if you run the wrong polarity with the wrong process, it'll ruin your machine.
Yeah, not really. So maybe over time it can affect the lifetime, because let's say the load on the equipment is of course a little bit higher if you run with reverse polarity. Also, let's say on the welding torches, on the welding equipment. But if you know it, and then you can consider it. You can, for instance, look at the rating of torches. If you look at a TIG torch, or even for the tungsten electrodes for TIG welding, you always find, okay, I can use this tungsten electrode for DC welding at, let's say, 400 amps. I can use it for AC welding with 300 amps. And if I would weld with positive polarity, it's only 200 amps. And that shows you, yes, the load on that equipment, on the electrode, on the torch will be higher. But of course, if you consider it, it's not a problem.
Yeah. Here's another one that comes up all the time. You have to be strong to be a welder. Is that correct?
Absolutely. You only see big guys.
Yeah.
No, I think maybe some 20 years ago when I visited US, it was in a lot of places like this. But then go to Asia or go to Russia, a lot of welders are women. And so you may think, do you really have to be a strong guy to be a welder? No.
Yeah.
What, of course, was, supporting this argument was that in the past, a lot of the welding torches were really heavy, and I don't know why, but some welders even liked to have a really big handle, and then they could show we are strong. But, doing that job, doing 8 hours welding a day, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
And that was really leading to some developments for lighter torches, where we have some lightweight components in the cable assembly, in the torch neck, but still having the same rating, of course. You did not let this down. The handles were made more ergonomic. The torches themselves were more balanced. So to reduce that weight and the load, you have, let's say, a welding torch that's not good balance. You also have a constant load on your wrist because it's always bending down. Yeah. If you do overhead welding, you have a real heavy torch. It can be
wear
like
your shoulders.
3-4 lips. It can be the weight of a welding torch. And a lot of welders have musculoskeletal diseases, or at least problems, because it's really so exhausting. So using lighter torches, using ergonomic torches, that will help. And then you may not have to be that strong guy or not that strong women.
Yeah. So no, not necessarily. And there's also robots that can help out. Like
of
with
course.
The lifting.
For the robot, no problem.
Yeah, not a problem at all. This one we hear all the time. Automation is going to take welders' jobs. Is that correct?
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
I think if you look at the robot, it's a machine. Yeah, and machines are dumb. The intelligence is sitting in front of the machine. That means who tells the robot, and then the welding machine that's connected to the robot, what are the correct welding parameters? You need a welder for that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And a welder, that does not have to do this manual welding, as we discussed before, with that heavy load, with being very near to welding fumes. I think he can be lucky if he can, let's say, set the right parameters to the welding power source, maybe learns the programming of the robot for the welding tasks, which needs welding knowledge. So how do I set, which angle do I have to set the robotic welding torch? What's the correct stick out? Yeah. The robot does not know that. So do I have to slow down when I go around the radius? Yeah, that's all welding knowledge.
Yeah.
And so I think, no, it will lead to higher qualification of the welders. And anyway, we have a lack of welders. So I don't see the risk of welders losing their jobs. I see the risk that we don't find enough welders. That's a much more prominent risk, in my opinion, than losing jobs of welders to automation.